There was a time when lust had a boundary, when desire, though natural, was shackled by guilt and guided by scripture. Men once feared the consequences of indulgence, not just in terms of earthly repercussions, but in relation to their eternal soul. In the age of faith, lust was a sin, not a selling point. The church bell rang louder than the moans of temptation, and even the most primal urges were filtered through the lens of divine law. A man who looked too long at another man's wife wasn't just impolite. He was in violation of a sacred code. But that era, as Nietzsche warned, is gone. God is dead, he declared, not with celebration, but with chilling sobriety. And with God's death came the collapse of the absolute moral compass that once governed even the most intimate corners of human behavior. In its place, chaos disguised as freedom. Nietzsche wasn't just critiquing religion, he was diagnosing the spiritual rot of the modern age. He foresaw that without a higher authority, man would no longer know how to define good or evil, especially in the realm of sexuality. Without God, what does it mean to say that lust is wrong? Who draws the line? The individual? The government? Social media influencers? In the absence of a divine standard, morality becomes a matter of taste, not truth. The sacred becomes subjective. Lust, once seen as a powerful force that required discipline, is now marketed as empowerment. What was once a vice is now virtue. Pornography is mainstream, public displays of sexual obsession are normalized, and the man who controls his urges is ridiculed as repressed rather than revered. But let us pause here and ask, has this so-called liberation improved us? Has tearing down the altar of restraint made us stronger or weaker? Nietzsche's philosophy forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. He saw that man, when stripped of God, does not necessarily become freer. He becomes lost. He begins to worship idols made in his own image. And what idol has man chosen in the modern age? Lust, pleasure, the gratification of the moment. The body has become the new god, and orgasm, the new form of worship. We measure success not by spiritual growth or character, but by sexual access, notches on the belt, and viral thirst traps. In the 1800s, Nietzsche imagined what the modern world would look like if God were truly dead. If we lived in a world where nothing was inherently right or wrong, and where all values had to be re-evaluated. He knew that when objective truth dies, what remains is the brute force of instinct. He called this the revaluation of all values, and nowhere is that more evident than in our sexual culture. When religious morality collapsed, sexual ethics didn't evolve, they disintegrated. They were replaced with hollow slogans: do what feels good, live your truth, sex is just biology. But biology without boundaries is savagery. Lust without a higher purpose is not liberation. It is enslavement to impulse. And yet we celebrate it. We are told this is progress, that we are more enlightened than our ancestors who lived under patriarchal or puritanical codes. But Nietzsche would disagree. He would say we are not enlightened, we are unmoored. We are not gods, we are addicts. The man of today scrolls endlessly, masturbates religiously, and confuses arousal for intimacy. He has no doctrine of discipline, no metaphysical frame through which to understand the meaning of sex or the cost of indulgence. The modern man chases pleasure as if it will save him, but Nietzsche knew better. It is not pleasure that saves. It is the will to rise above it. This is the uncomfortable truth. The death of God did not just kill the church. It killed the restraint that kept lust in its proper place. It left us morally naked, exposed to the storm of desire without shelter. The old codes may have been strict, but they served a purpose. They treated lust as something powerful, dangerous, worthy of fear and reverence. Today, lust is laughed at, cheapened, turned into clickbait, and monetized for dopamine. And so, the modern soul, untethered from heaven, drowns in the very freedom it begged for. Nietzsche's warning wasn't a call to atheism. It was a dare to become stronger than your instincts in a world where nothing restrains them for you. So the question is not whether God is dead, but whether we are strong enough to survive in the world he left behind. What if everything you chase is what's weakening you? What if pleasure isn't reward, but a trap? And what if desire itself was the enemy all along? Death of desire, the Stoics' path to cold clarity. This is not a guide. This is not self-help. This is war. Kill the need. Master the mind. When the throne of God was left vacant, man did not become divine. He became devoured by his own instincts. Nietzsche, ever the surgeon of the soul, saw this clearly. He knew that man could not live without worship. If he no longer bowed to a deity, he would bow to desire. Lust, once confined to the private shadows of human nature, stepped into the light. It became not just accepted, but celebrated, marketed as identity, weaponized as power, and absorbed into the very architecture of culture. The result? A civilization not governed by reason or restraint, but by erotic impulse disguised as self-expression. The modern world claims to be free. Free from repression, from shame, from outdated dogmas about purity or control. But Nietzsche would call this a lie, because when man surrenders to instinct, he is not free. He is enslaved. Look at today's society. Men glued to screens, chasing novelty, eyes bloodshot from endless scrolling, hearts numb from overstimulation, minds fogged by instant gratification. Pornography is not just a private indulgence anymore, it is a rite of passage. Young men are initiated into the world of sex not through experience, but through pixels. And every click, every climax, dulls the edge of their willpower. Nietzsche warned us of this passive nihilism, a condition where man no longer believes in meaning, so he substitutes it with pleasure. He stops creating and starts consuming. He becomes docile, tamed, emasculated. You can see it in his posture, in his energy, in his passivity. Lust has become the silent dictator of modern masculinity. The average man is no longer moved by vision. He is pulled by appetite. And this is no accident. The system profits from his weakness. Algorithms are engineered to feed him a steady diet of erotic triggers. Social media platforms are flooded with women performing sexual identity for validation and monetization. OnlyFans, Tinder, thirst traps. It's a marketplace of desire, where lust is sold, traded, and worshipped like a god. And the more he indulges, the weaker he becomes. His soul contracts, his ambition fades. His edge is dulled by endless orgasms that leave him spiritually bankrupt. Nietzsche would not be shocked by this. He knew that once the moral architecture collapsed, instinct would fill the vacuum. And he feared that most men would not be strong enough to resist it. He called these men the last men, creatures who seek only comfort, who avoid suffering at all costs, who mistake orgasm for victory. The last man has no ideals, no fire, no battle to fight. He sneers at greatness and worships mediocrity, as long as it comes with pleasure and convenience. Sound familiar? But the consequences go deeper. When lust becomes the new god, relationships collapse into transaction. Love becomes performance. Intimacy is replaced by exhibitionism. Women begin to weaponize sexuality for status, and men respond with either simping or bitterness. There is no reverence, only negotiation, no mystery, only exposure. And beneath it all lies a kind of despair, a hollowness masked by bravado and body counts, a subtle, unspoken longing for something sacred, but nothing sacred remains. Nietzsche's lens allows us to see this not as mere cultural decline, but as existential crisis. Lust, ungoverned, becomes nihilistic. It offers no higher aim, only repetition. Like a drug, it requires more to feel less. And so, the man trapped by lust begins to decay from the inside. His attention span shrinks. His creative energy dies. His masculine edge blunts into softness. He is no longer a hunter. He is the hunted, hunted by his own craving. This is not evolution. This is regression dressed in lingerie. And yet we call this progress. We have mistaken indulgence for enlightenment, confusion for complexity, and slavery to impulse as liberation. Nietzsche warned us, without values rooted in strength, clarity, and self-overcoming, society would rot. And so here we are, smiling into the abyss, thirsting for likes, losing our souls one orgasm at a time. But this isn't the end of the story. Nietzsche didn't just diagnose the disease, he pointed toward the cure. The next part of this journey isn't about shame. It's about transcendence. It's about taking back what lust has stolen from us, not by running from it, but by mastering it. That's the path of the Übermensch. That's what comes next. In the alchemy of lust, you'll be taken deep into the ancient and forgotten discipline of sexual transmutation, a principle once reserved for monks, warriors, kings, and creators. The modern man, governed by lust, believes he is free, but he is not. He is merely unchained and adrift. He has escaped the prison of religious repression, only to be imprisoned by the illusion of freedom, pleasure without purpose. But Nietzsche's vision was not to leave man trapped in chaos. His goal was transformation, a higher evolution, not a return to blind faith, but a forging of new values from within. And in the realm of lust, this means not the suppression of desire, but its conquest, the transformation of lust into will, into fire, into creation. At the center of this path stands Nietzsche's greatest ideal, the Übermensch, the overman. Not a man who avoids temptation, but one who masters it, who no longer obeys the herd or hides behind doctrines, but creates his own code. The Übermensch does not escape lust through shame. He transcends it through integration. He understands that sexual desire is one of the most potent forces in the human psyche, and so he does not waste it in meaningless indulgence. He redirects it, refines it. He wields it as power, not pleasure. This is the essence of sexual transmutation, not denial, but alchemy. The ability to take raw erotic energy and transform it into art, ambition, domination, and drive. History offers proof. Men like Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, creators, visionaries, conquerors of mind and matter. Many of them avoided sexual relationships not because they were weak, but because they understood the cost of surrendering to lust. Their celibacy was not repression, it was rebellion against distraction. Their abstinence was a weapon, a sacrifice that fed their genius. They chose legacy over libido, mission over masturbation, and in doing so, they carved their names into eternity. Nietzsche understood this dynamic. He saw that the will to power is not just about conquering others, but about conquering oneself. The highest man is not the one who indulges the most, but the one who can resist, the one who can hold his fire, harness it, and strike when the moment is right. In a world drowning in temptation, restraint becomes revolutionary, discipline becomes divine. This is what a new morality demands, not external rules, but internal sovereignty. Not shame imposed from outside, but structure forged from within. The man who has no values will be consumed by lust, but the man who creates his own values, who chooses purpose, builds a personal code, and walks the razor's edge of discipline, he becomes unstoppable. He becomes a god, not because he denies his instincts, but because he commands them. Lust becomes a servant, not a master. Pleasure becomes a tool, not a chain. This is the new ethic, not puritanical fear of sex, not modern worship of it, but sacred mastery. Lust is no longer evil, it is raw potential. But like all raw power, it must be channeled. Uncontrolled, it devours. Controlled, it elevates. So what do you choose? You can follow the herd, obey your urges, and vanish into the swarm of simps and spectators. Or you can rise. You can confront your desire, master it, and turn it into fuel for greatness. In a world ruled by lust, the man who masters it becomes a king. Nietzsche said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. So command yourself, forge your code, transcend your instincts. Become the kind of man who does not escape from lust, but builds a legacy from it." Thus remember, we are Indeceptor. Becoming Indeceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. The Indeceptor Archive is the complete vault. Every lesson, every revelation, every psychological blueprint I've ever recorded, handcrafted to help you break chains, build discipline, and become undefeatable in a world built to deceive men. No ads, no algorithms, no distractions.